100 Winters, Retracing the Great Race Against Death. Written by Jonathan Nathaniel Hayes. Illustrated by Caleb Gingra. Chapter 24. NOME. I never intended to have this run into NOME all by myself with the dogs, but as fate would have it, that's exactly how it ended up. The blowhole had crippled the modern machines. The ancient symbiosis of man and dog prevailed once again. Those who know me well will tell you I'm not the kind to allow myself to get excited about much of anything. Coming into NOME was no exception. There were still a million things that could go wrong, a million things to worry about for tomorrow. When we left Maine for Alaska, I knew we'd scraped together just enough to get the expedition to NOME. But now, I'd have to fly 4 men, 3 snow machines, 2 trailers, 16 dogs, and a freight sled. Remember, there are still no roads, out of NOME and back to Anchorage. Then we'd load it all into Jamie's diesel truck and 32-foot trailer for another 5,000-mile journey home. That kind of homecoming has a price tag, a very high one. Had we raised enough new sponsorship along the trail to cover it? Even if so, there were logistics to juggle. I'd need to get Jamie out first so he could retrieve his truck and trailer from the Scanlon family hours outside of Anchorage. Then I'd have to time things just right so the dogs and gear arrived in Anchorage about when Jamie got back with his truck. And there were other thoughts. That same feeling I had at the end of my first shorter expedition. Only now it came sharper. A part of me didn't want this to be over. I craved the finish and dreaded it. The rhythm of the trail, the rhythm of pause in the snow, the rhythm of panting breath, the slide of the runners, the cadence of the trot, the difficult yet simple life of focusing entirely on the dogs. Back home, more worries awaited: bills, careers, the common struggles of navigating a blended family. But out here, it was all so hard, yet so beautifully simple. And that strenuous simplicity made me feel more alive than any comforts of modernity ever could. Don't worry about tomorrow. The words of Jesus ring in my head. Sufficient for the day are its own troubles. Of course, worry and anxiety have no place in a believer's heart. I'm called to walk by faith, to trust that it will all work out together for the good. Jonathan, stop it, I told myself. Relish this moment. You're about to mush into NOME, Alaska, with the descendants of the same dogs Seppala ran here a century ago. Indulge in the moment. Soak it in. Be present. Be grateful. So I did. There was a magical sunset painted by God just for us. We marched into it, bathed in the color of gold, the same gold that gave NOME its fame a century ago. The team marched in a kind of euphoria toward the finish. Ptarmigan erupted into the sky from the tussocks as we passed, delighting the dogs even more. God, I prayed, I know this is a silly request, but if my dogs can feel anything akin to the spirit of their ancestors who ran this trail 100 years ago, let them feel that communion with them now. In those moments, we became intoxicated by the primal Trinity. Humanity communing with the Creator through creation. My eyes misted, maybe from cold, maybe not. I became so overwhelmed by the beauty and gratitude of it all, I almost forgot my promise. I had to wait a few miles outside of town for my teammates. However long that took, we were a team, and it would be wrong to mush into town without them. So I parked the team in the sunset. We were baptized into it. We became part of it. I let myself soak in the sounds, too. Familiar howling winds, yes, but also some new sounds. Sounds I'd first heard reaching the coast near Unalakleet. A sound like a rushing mountain stream. The first time I heard it, it startled me. I scanned for crevices or water beneath the ice, but now I knew its source. The wind breaking large shards of coastal ice and sending thousands of diamond-like fragments tumbling across the frozen surface. Ice rolling on ice in great quantity, making a sound like a rushing water. Early explorers described the same phenomenon in their journals, mistaking it for distant waterfalls beneath the ice. A new, strange, haunting, beautiful sound that made me smile. True to form, this unpredictable and unprecedented season, the Bering Sea ice around Nome had just recently broken up. This was unheard of for Nome at this time of year. The, quote, Nome City Forest of used Christmas trees frozen into the sea ice is an annual display of Arctic humor. The entire display had been carried out to sea. The open water, jumbled with ice, added a troubling but uniquely poetic layer to the scene before me. And so I stood in that stream of flowing ice, with my dogs bathed in gold, and there I allowed myself to simply be, present, patient, in communion. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the wind ushered in nightfall with a fury, Jamie pulled up beside me right on cue. He came to tell me the team would stick to the road into town, but would meet me where the trail and road intersect. It had been a long, trying day, but the finish line had us all in good spirits. He turned back for the road. I clicked on my headlamp, ready to relish a few final miles of solitude along the coast. Cars lined up on the roadside a couple miles from town to greet us. They honked their horns in welcome. I was blissfully oblivious to the mounting winds. Nothing could dampen my spirits now, or so I thought. Alaska had one final parting gift. Not so fast, she seemed to say. The trail vanished onto a solid sheet of black ice about the size of a football field. And there, in front of a crowd of well-wishers, my sled and I were hurled toward the open sea. My poor dogs scrambled for footing, but the gusts were so strong they dragged all 16 of them and me backwards. Seriously? Can I catch a break? Oh, brake! The brake was useless until my runner found purchase in a small snowdrift, just enough to stop the slide. Then we crept forward, inch by inch, releasing the brake just enough to let the dogs lurch ahead, then slamming it back down before the wind used our momentum against us. And so we made our way across the ice. When we reached the road, I made another mistake. I wrongly assumed this was where we were to travel onto the road. I gave my leaders the command, haw, to turn left onto the road. They obeyed, wrapping us around a parked pickup truck. I saw in the headlights that Jamie and Jeff were crossing the road toward the actual trail. Of all the moments for my dogs to obey me with perfect precision and with disregard for the machines, this was one where disobedience might have helped. Instead, we bolted at high speed down the icy road, barely missing car after car. Jamie moved fast. He raced back, pulled ahead of the team, and veered off the road toward the correct trail. This quick thinking and my corrective G command steered us out of the traffic and back across the lagoon toward town. I'm sure it was quite the spectacle for the crowd. And if the owner of that truck I hit with my sled is reading this, let me know if there was any damage. I'll be good for it. Finally, we came onto Front Street, made famous not only by the Iditarod's annual finish. In 1925, Front Street is where Gunnar Kaysen and Balto ended their run to the cheers of a desperate town. The pageantry made for quite the parade. My dog team was flanked by my teammates on snow machines. The NOME Police Department gave us an official escort, sirens and lights blazing. We passed under the Iron Dog finish arch in front of Nome Covenant Church, where the Iditarod's famous Brold Arch would stand in just a few weeks. Unlike the Iditarod finish, there was no snow hauled in and packed onto the street, nothing in the chute to drop a hook on to stop a team. I plopped the snow hooks down anyway, out of habit. It clanged on the frozen pavement. My string of 16 Seppalas looked confused. They couldn't see the dog yard a block away, so they figured we weren't done. Druid swung the team back into the street, clotheslining a few spectators who stood on the unlucky side of the dogs. People rushed to help, but I waved them off. Sorry, I got it. Everyone up on the curb, please. They're about to swing back. I walked around the corner of the church and called to Vodka. She swung the entire team right again toward me and back onto the sidewalk. It was around 9 p.m., but a large crowd had gathered. The mayor, the pastor, Alaska's news source, but most importantly, the children. Can we pet your dogs? Yes, please help me pet all of them, I replied. My teammates embraced their family who had flown in to celebrate. But the family I had present was the family I had journeyed here with, my dogs. I celebrated with them. My good dogs. To put my pride into perspective, the average Iditarod team will drop about half of their 16 dogs en route to Nome. But we finished with all 16 in harness. And by their demeanor, they thought Nome was just another village, another pit stop, and they would be ready to march out tomorrow if I called on them to do so. Sled dogs truly live by the old adage, it's about the journey, not the destination. My good dogs, I whispered. Just then, Amy Nichols, Jamie's wife, leaned over and whispered, "The mayor and pastor and the news anchor are all waiting for you back at the sled." Right, the ceremony. I left the dogs in the affectionate care of the children and returned to the sled. Unfolding the bundled blanket, I withdrew the century-old Alaska Railroad crate containing the serum vial. The mayor spoke kind words about the expedition, about the serum run, and what it meant to Nome. While he spoke, I opened the case and pulled out something else. The letters from the children of Nenana, where both serum runs began, written to the children of Nome. To me, those little letters captured the heart of our expedition as much as the vials themselves. That night, the Nome Covenant Church hosted us. After caring for the dogs, we gratefully fell into warm beds. The next day was full. Media interviews, more dog care, and packing for the flights. Pastor Mike asked me if I could share a quiet coffee with him and his wife. They wanted to hear the tales firsthand. This was the second time they'd so kindly hosted me, and I was happy to oblige. "So what's next?" he asked when I finished recounting our adventures. "I'm not sure," I said. "I'd love to mush to Nome again someday in the Iditarod, but the logistics of pulling that off from the East Coast would be every bit as hard as this expedition was. Still, it would be nice." I paused, then smiled. I think it was the polar explorer and fellow Mainer, Robert Peary, who said, "The best time to plan your next adventure is the moment you finish the current one." So I guess now is as good a time as any to start daydreaming again. Little did I know, the hand of Providence had one more celebratory finish line waiting. Before I even made it home, I was asked to testify before the Maine state legislature by video call in support of the bill to make my little Seppala Siberian sled dogs the official state dogs of Maine. When I returned, I was asked to appear again, this time in person at the State House, with some of the dogs. Ultimately, the bill passed committee 9-1, it passed legislature unanimously, and it passed the Senate by 75%. In 1927, 2 years after the Serum Run, Leonard Seppala moved to Maine with Togo and his dogs, founding the first Seppala kennels at Poland Spring. It was here that Seppala's Arctic bloodlines became rooted in the New England soil, linking NOME to Maine in a shared legacy. And now my beloved dogs represent not only the legacy of their ancestors' heroism in the great race against death, but the indomitable spirit of our beloved home state of Maine. The night we finished the expedition, we received many congratulatory messages. My friend and mentor, Mitch Seavey, called. Iditarod Race Marshal Mark Nordman called as well, congratulating me and informing me that due to the poor trail conditions, the Iditarod had decided to use the trail my team had broken out from Nenana and reroute the race accordingly. But of all the well-wishing, none touched me deeper than the call I received from my father while standing there on Front Street with the town. "Are you okay? Is your team okay? Are the dogs okay?" Good. Then he began to cry, and my father never cries. "Son," he said, "we all have our missions in life. Right now, in this season of your life, this was your mission. Well done." As I handed off the serum case to the mayor, I thought of Kaysen mushing down this very stretch a century ago, fighting the same winds, driving Seppala's dogs, and delivering hope. 100 winters apart, yet connected by the same street, the same town, and the same dogs. For a moment, it felt as though time folded in on itself, and Kaysen, Seppala, Balto, Togo, they were all here with us. NOME was not just a finish line. It was a meeting place of past and present, man and dog, heaven and earth, 100 winters. And in that moment, I knew I was precisely where I was meant to be. The end. I hope you enjoyed this free recording of my new book, 100 Winters, Retracing the Great Race Against Death. If so, I'd like for you to return the favor by purchasing a copy. You can do that at Amazon, or you can reach out to us on social media or on our website at MUSH, Maine, and request an autographed copy. I also want to ask you to click like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment so that we know that you've been listening and tell us what you thought. And whether it be on this side of glory or the other, until next time, Godspeed and happy trails.